on the other end, and you're actually knocking some of those shots down. So I think that's the part of the process that you have to stick with.
Magic are back at it tonight at home, hosting the Indiana Pacers at 7. It's 79 degrees at 12 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dawes. Hey!
This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL, switched on by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor. Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Well, ladies, something tells me that Vegas knew that Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to play on Sunday against the Lions, whether or not we officially found out until today, because of the fact that the line started off at 13 points. That tells me that someone somewhere knew Trevor was going to rest another week. The Jaguars do have a bye week next week, so maybe he'll come back. I'm also, as we sit here today, I'm not going to guarantee you that he's even going to come back after the bye week.
Doug Peterson did say this morning, which you'll hear from him momentarily here on the Superstation, that he is optimistic that Trevor would be able to return after the bye week.
He also told us last week that he might play last week, and that was never happening.
Will Doug Peterson be around after the bye week? That also remains to be seen as well.
I bet he wishes right now that
He's not back.
I mean, I'm kidding. No one ever wants to be fired.
Speaking of that betting line, the spread has moved since the announcement that Trevor Lawrence is out this week. The Detroit Lions now 14-point favorites over your Jacksonville Jaguars in Motown. I feel like part of this move, though, Taylor, was also made so that Mac Jones is the guy this week. He will meet with reporters momentarily at the Miller Electric Center. The game plan is based around him. Thought there might be some gamesmanship and perhaps forcing the Lions to prepare for both quarterbacks like the Jaguars did last week with the Minnesota Vikings. Mm-hmm. That's not the case this week, but perhaps full confidence in Mac. Maybe that's the antidote to the Jaguars' woes of late.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that I kind of joked about it last week when it was like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if, in my opinion, if Trevor's not playing, then teams probably feel like they can do what they want. They've already been able to, even when Trevor's on the field, because unfortunately a lot of things haven't worked out the way you wanted to offensively when it comes to the line, when it comes to receiver drops, when it comes to play calling, everything. And then so you take away Trevor, who a lot of people, I know there's criticisms around, but a lot of people outside of Jacksonville still think that Trevor is really good and are talking about, like, okay, what has Jacksonville done to this man? Because there's still a lot of talent there. So a lot of people think if you pluck that out, then there's not really much game planning you have to do because they're not too worried about it. It is interesting. It does shift things a little bit for any team when you're talking about planning for a different quarterback. And I had asked when we were talking to the Vikings guy last week, like, how much does it change the game plan? And when you have defenses like what the Vikings and the Lions are, they're good at everything. So you really don't have to do a whole lot. I will say one of the things with the Lions, they're way better up front than they are in the secondary. They've allowed a ton of passing yards, but once they get to the red zone, they shut teams down. So I don't think they're too worried as a whole when it comes to this offense, but you still have to have a plan when you're coming in. And that's one of the things that the Lions have showed, that even when things don't go perfectly and go well for them, they're able to game plan around that and win games.
I think the biggest question now is going to be, what does the offense look like with Mac Jones? And we weren't sure week to week, honestly, what the offense looked like with even Trevor Lawrence and the design of the offense. But now that you know for sure, Mac Jones is going to get all the first-team reps this week, and the offense has to be designed around what he does well. It sure feels like the Jaguars need to run the ball if they're going to try and stay in this game against the Lions.
Yeah, and if only on the defensive side of the ball, which, again, you'll hear from Doug in a second, but it sounds like they're just going to keep on keeping on. He was asked as far as more 12 personnel this past weekend, a.k.a. more 2 tight end sets. The fact that tight ends received, I believe it was 13 targets compared to just 7 targets to wide receivers across the board. Was that part of the game plan? He said that was just by nature of who was the hot hand at the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of how this offense is operating right now, Lauren. Outside of saying during the week that they would like to place an emphasis on running the ball, saying it during the week, and then who knows what happens when push comes to shove. Ultimately, this is an offense that, all right, that's working today. Cool, we'll do that today, which there are teams, to Taylor's point, like the Detroit Lions, who do operate that way, and they are able to adapt, and it works. That is not the case so far through 10 weeks of the season in this town.
And that's what, honestly, that's usually the teams you're scared to face are the ones that have so many things that they can do, or that you go into a game being like, okay, is this going to be a game where Lamar Jackson goes ham and runs all over? Is this going to be a game where they're using their running backs? Is this going to be a game where their tight ends are being used super heavy? Is this going to be a game where Zay Flowers goes off? But it's not the situation in Jacksonville. Like, it's almost more so panic mode. So during games, things aren't working. Hit the panic button. Okay, what can we get going whatsoever? Rather than coming in and being like, okay, this is what we want to do today.
This is who we are.
Yes.
This is our identity.
Well, it's wild because the Jaguars were actually ahead against the Vikings, and normally they fall behind, and so that, of course, then dictates, well, we can't run the ball as much. We've got to pass because we've got to catch up, and yet it wasn't a double-digit deficit. In fact, the Jaguars were up 7-3 at one point in time.
So let's actually begin. Let's go to the final question of Doug Peterson this morning. Let's begin there, RJ, because this is that conversation of what will the Jaguars do differently? Is the way they are currently operating sustainable? Especially as we flip it on over to the defensive side of the ball, where the rotations, folks, they ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sustainable recipe. You know, I mean, you look at the last, I think, 3 games, they're averaging close to 80 snaps a game. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot on the defense. But, again, credit them. You know, you hold a high-powered offense to 4 field goals, right? You're toe-to-toe with a chance to win against the Eagles. You come back against a good Green Bay team, you know, and tie that thing at the end of the game. I don't think over the course of a season is that sustainable. Probably not. But the way they're playing, yes, it is. I mean, they're playing good football.
So that was actually the second to last question. The follow-up to that was with regards to that snap count that Andre Sisco played close to. I believe it was 60-some-odd% of the snaps. We saw an uptick of Antonio Johnson, and Doug Peterson did reply and said, hey, you know what? You're going to see more of that because, and I quote, as I will read it off of my Twitter timeline, since so many of you really took it and ran with it this morning. Doug Peterson saying, bodies and minds are tired. It's a way to keep guys as fresh as possible. And
the Jags haven't had a bye week yet.
And correct. And he referenced rotations at defensive back, like you saw with Monteric Brown and Ronald Darby, at safety between Andre Sisco, Antonio Johnson, Darnell Savage, all the pieces back there, and at linebacker as well. So we're just going to keep on keeping on here in Duval, folks.
Yeah. Well, and I think the main thing is it's not like this is new. They're not like, oh, we haven't had a bye week and we're getting later into the season, so they're tired. You've been doing this the whole time. So this rotations of everything has happened. That's what the identity of this defense was, and it hasn't worked. It has, I felt like, lessened. We talked about the rotations early on being way too much, and I do feel like they've tried to settle in a little bit. And I get it. We can talk all day. Great that the Vikings only scored 12. I think that at the end of the day, though, I just read the stats the other day of the amount of close, over 70 games that are in one score. So it's just happening league wide. It's a weird season and teams are winning that shouldn't be winning. But at the end of the day, the good teams find ways to win that Eagles game, that Packers game, that Vikings game.
Yeah, the reason that teams like the Lions are where they are is because they've been able to overcome adversity. And a team like the Jaguars, it started with week 1 with the ETN fumble against the Dolphins. Everything seemed to fall apart after that. The Lions lost their best pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, who still has some of the highest sack numbers in the season. And he hasn't played in a few weeks. And he's not going to play the rest of the season. He ended with 7.5 when he got hurt. And yet they're still able to find a way. Of course, Darius Smith, who they traded for, did not play last week. The Jaguars get to face him on Sunday up in Detroit. It just feels like Dan Campbell and the way that they've designed their franchise, they are headed towards not just the postseason this year. They are headed towards a deep playoff run because they are able to do, to your point, Taylor, so many different things well. If they want to run the ball, they'll lean on the run. Jared Goff can throw 5 interceptions. They still win a football game because they are an organization that can pick each other up.
And Doug Peterson compared that build, the slow build over the last 3 to 4 years that we are now seeing the fruits of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' labor here in this 2024 season. He actually compared that, RJ, to Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys of the early 90s, which, of course, Coach Campo was a part of.
I mean, I go back to probably the early, Jimmy Johnson days with the Cowboys, right? I mean, he took over a franchise that was 1-15 or 0-15, 0-16, something like that, and within 4 years, they're competing for championships. And obviously they've done things well there. They draft well. Free agents have all been a big part of it. The more success you have, he's going to lose coaches. He's going to bring new coaches in. Faces are going to change. But I think there's just the one thing that I think when you look at Dan and really the teams that have had success, it's consistency.
Consistency.
That word, that's what I was about to say.
Consistently poor.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important word to say. And it will be interesting. I'm not trying to rain on the Lions parade, because I think what they've done and what they've built has been the right way. They built from the trenches. They've built from the inside out, and it's worked really well. And they have one of the best offensive lines, and that offensive line has, even in games like this when Jared Goff isn't playing very well, they are still able to help in so many other factors. We talked about Penei Sewell and what they're doing with him, also the run game, those things. It will be interesting, though, because my guess would be Ben Johnson is a head coach somewhere next year, and how much does that factor in? Because, Doug just talked about it. Good teams lose coaches. Your coordinators are going to be gone. And that's one of the things about being a good team is it's fun. But at the same time, there's constantly people picking at your offensive or your coaching staff in general because they're winning. So it will be interesting looking forward to see how much Ben Johnson was a part of this offense. But the consistency, that's the word. Because it's that's great. It's fun to have those seasons every now and then. We talk about the 2017 season here, obviously. And it's fun to have those moments, but it's clearly not built right if you have 1 year and then things fall apart all over again.
And Doug Peterson did go on to reference the fact that he has seen that in his coaching tenure. He's been a part of teams that are consistent, and it's easier to be consistent when you are winning, but when you are losing, it is harder to be consistent. And, of course, that full interview is available if you go listen to the Jaguars press conference on demand at their YouTube channel. But point being, he did reference that this team here, teams that he has coached, have been consistent. What he did not answer is, why is this team right now not consistent? Wasn't asked either, by the way. That's on us.
Ben Johnson wants to potentially come to Jacksonville. I read one time that Ben Johnson makes more money than Dan Campbell. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, that was how they got him to stay.
Yeah.
I did a podcast with someone. I didn't know that until I did my podcast, and they said that they're like, actually, he makes more than Dan Campbell there.
I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that, whether in college football or the NFL, of an assistant a coordinator making more than the head coach.
I guess that's the way, though. They were talking, and I don't know. It may have been some circumstance, but I think also Ben Johnson was that guy who they were in that spot where they knew they were right there. And sometimes that is important to coaches, but also if your team's like, hey, we're so close, we'll give you more money if you just stay here and give us your offensive genius for a little bit longer so that we can have you. It would be interesting to look into that and see how many others that has happened with, because I'm not sure it has. But I think it's a conversation we've had here a lot and we'll continue to have, especially through the rest of the season. And I tweeted about it earlier, and the amount of people are like, are you talking about the Bears or the Jags? And I said both. But I said you can cut, bench, fire, and trade all you want, but if the issues at the top are trickling through the entire organization and those things aren't fixed, things will never be how you want them to be long term. And I wanted to say that word long term because you can patch holes and you can fix a team for a year or two. But what other teams do that we've seen these long, successful runs on is they're not building for, okay, next year we can win. They're building for, let's see how much we can build this up for the next 10 years. And then the Jags just have never done that.
Yeah, the draft. That's a huge part of it, is building from the draft.
For those of you who missed Doug Peterson's press conference this morning and are wondering what is the sentiment, the vibe around the building, RJ, if we could cue up this one. For me, this was the one response today where I was like, oh boy, this kind of says where we are. Doug Peterson asked if it's tough to manage emotions at 2-8.
No, it's really not. It's a great group of guys. This is week 11. We guys haven't really had a break, obviously, and they keep grinding. Are we defeated, disappointed, discouraged? I mean, there's moments of that, obviously, because of the way the season's going, but by no means are they, quitting or lack of energy or wanting to improve, get better as a team. I still see that, every single day. It's credit to those guys.
Just going to let that one hang in the air for a little bit.
Well,
let it marinate out there.
There you have it. I do want to give a shout out. Jamal St. Cyr tweeted this last night. Monteric, Buster Brown, and Jarian Jones surprised 20 kids from the Boys and Girls Club of Nassau County with $200 gift cards at the Academy Sports in Yulee, and they helped them shop around. That's right, RJ.
I love that.
I just think lost in a lot of this stuff, this football demise around here is how much these guys do for our community. And it's one of the reasons that when we talk about getting the Stadium of the Future approved, and so thankful that it was, is because what the NFL means and what the Jaguars mean to this community goes certainly far beyond the wins and losses on Sunday. Those matter a lot. Don't get me wrong. That's why we spend so much time discussing it, breaking it all down. But what they mean for our community is so much. And certainly coming up next month, we'll have the J Fund too. And what Tom Coughlin has meant and what the J Fund has meant to our community is just something that's limitless.
And if we do want to talk on field, Jarian Jones is among some of the top nickel corners in the National Football League in his rookie season. I actually loved, from a personal standpoint, I loved the message he posted on his Instagram story this morning. It's a sign that's being held that says, "If I die in the battlefield, tell mama I did my best." And then he wrote, "All in, no regrets."
Oh,
and you got to love, you do have to love, that's a guy who, to Doug Peterson's point, is still plugging away.
Mm-hmm.
And you can write that off as, well, he's a rookie. He's trying to prove himself in the league. He hasn't been paid yet. You could say that all you want, but I truly, knowing the character of him and getting to know him over the last 5-6 months, like that's who he is. And to those of you on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, the MyBookie Digital Studio, that have questioned the character of some of these guys, look, you can question the play on the football field, but I think this is, that part I don't think is lip service from the folks at the Miller Electric Center. They do have a good group of guys. Now, if they could just get that good group of Boy Scouts to, play at a winning level, that would be great too.
Can Mia make you money? We'll find out. Her midweek MyBookie picks are next. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
It's not reinventing the wheel, it's making it roll down the field.
Let's keep it rolling.
Listen for the Randy Marion Cadillac of Jacksonville drive of the game
That's a great drive right there.
on 1010XL.
Keep going. We got to keep going, keep going, keep going.
Injured in an accident? Have mounting medical bills? Can't work? Don't worry. Zach's got your back. I'm Zach Von Rowan of Von Rowan Law. I will fight for the compensation that you deserve. Set up your free consultation at zachsgotyourback.com.
Mia here for MyBookie. Our listeners have been killing it in a year full of surprises. MyBookie is the one book that has your back. No fluff, no second guessing, just straight up action. Does your other sports book pay out when you push on a bet? MyBookie pays you back. And if you're new to the game and not sure where to start, we have you covered too. Step 1, use our promo code 1010XL. That'll double your bankroll with a 100% deposit bonus right from the jump. Here's a pro tip to get you rolling. The NFL teams with powerhouse offensive lines, like the Detroit Lions, are dominating the run game this year, and betting game total unders has been printing money. Stack that with MyBookie's risk-free Thursdays. Yup, you heard that right. Find a new free odds boost each and every Thursday by clicking the Bet Boost tab, scrolling on down, and finding it there. If it hits, you win. If it doesn't, MyBookie refunds your money. Sign up now and get your double deposit bonus with MyBookie, the best sign-up bonus for Florida bettors. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie.
I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwoods. If you're going to buy an engagement ring, how much should you spend?
Frank, that's a question we hear a lot, and the guideline most often used is the equivalent of 2 months' salary. But I'll say this, the price you pay for a diamond is directly related to its beauty. If you want a big, cheap diamond, I'll guarantee you it's poor quality, and that's not what we carry at Underwoods. If you want a diamond of fine quality, cut to the right specifications for maximum beauty, not maximum weight, that's the kind of diamond we have at Underwoods. You see, when somebody's been married for a long time, they don't always remember what they paid for their engagement ring. They probably remember the sacrifice they made to pay for it. And when you consider that a diamond engagement ring will be worn every day for the rest of her life, most people will agree that a really fine quality diamond ought to be considered. That's what we specialize in at Underwoods and have since 1928.
That's Underwoods in San Marco, in Avondale, the Shops of Ponte Vedra, Underwood Jewelers.
Ready to sharpen your aim or find the perfect firearm? Come to St. Nicholas Guns and Rage. With a huge selection of guns, ammo, and accessories, plus Jacksonville's best indoor range for every skill level. They've got everything you need to hit your target. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, their friendly experts will guide you every step of the way at 4630 Blanding Boulevard or online at stnickguns.com. St. Nicholas Gun and Range. Gear up, shoot a lot, shoot better.
It's Helmets and Heels, Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Grab your lucky spot on the couch, because traditions make Sunday easy to enjoy. Bud Light, easy to Sunday, easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus. Copyright 2024. Anheuser-Busch. Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Collisions happen on every play in football. Collisions also happen every day on the road. If you need auto body repair, from a $30 job to a $30,000 job, trust San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
This is Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, congratulating this week's high school scholar athlete, Lucas Elliott, senior golfer at Atlantic Coast High. Lucas is a member of the National and Spanish Honor Societies and has applied to the University of Florida and Florida State. Congratulations, Lucas.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Elbow pain, whether acute or chronic, can make it difficult to do normal activities like playing sports, doing household chores, or even sleeping comfortably. Dr. George Varga here, and no one wants to deal with pain without solutions on how to feel better. We've all heard of tennis and golfer's elbow, but there's plenty more that can cause pain, like osteoarthritis, muscle tears, and nerve entrapment. All are treatable at Barry Orthopedics. Getting you back to full health is our mission, and there's a number of different treatment options we can offer. Call us today or visit barryorthopedics.com.
Remember your first great cigar? Honestly, neither do we. But here's your chance to make a new memory with an extraordinary A.J. Fernandez cigar. Join us at Tobacco Cove, 3849 Bay Meadows Road on November 16th from 1 to 4 p.m. for our A.J. Fernandez cigar event. Enjoy food, prizes, and incredible deals on A.J. Fernandez cigars. Come for the cigars, stay for the experience at Tobacco Cove, 3849 Bay Meadows Road.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. November is Veterans Month, and Awaken 180 is honoring all active duty veterans and spouses with 15% off our entire program, plus the same free support for life all clients receive. Celebrate Veterans Month with 50% off at awaken180weightloss.com.
Hi, Jags fans. Walker Little here for my friends at Kingfish Pest Control. Playing offensive line in the NFL, I must block and protect on every down. When it comes to keeping my home pest-free, I expect that same level of protection. So I contacted Kingfish after seeing thousands of positive online customer reviews about their service. I can confirm from personal experience, bugs don't stand a chance getting past Kingfish Pest Control. Do what I did. Reach out to Kingfish Pest Control to protect your home, a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
There are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and if you stay in your home long enough, a new roof. Pick it here for our friends at Lockhart Roofing. Nobody better in Jacksonville. How do I know? They are a local certified Master Elite contractor, and that means they have a GAF Master Elite warranty. That's the best in the roofing industry. In this day and age, don't settle for cheaper discount roofers. Lockhart Roofing has been here for decades. They aren't going anywhere. Call my friends at Lockhart Roofing, 994-3851. That's 994-3851. Lockhart Roofing, Jacksonville's best for Jacksonville people.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Want to let you know we'll be at Tony D's Pizza on Friday. That's at the corner of Bay Meadows and 295, and there will be free slices available thanks to our friends at Royal Pest Services. So this Friday, noon to 2 p.m., come on out and hang out with us. That is Friday the 15th. And as of now, Mia is going to make you some money, hopefully.
Now, Mia's midday MyBookie picks. Experience the Vegas thrill from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
Man, oh man, do we have a little something for everyone. And if it's not a way to make money, Lauren, at the very least, hopefully it's a nice little factoid or two that you can put in your pocket for later and tell your friends at the water cooler. Let's begin in the National Football League. An NFC East showdown on Thursday night between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jaden Daniels and friends, 3.5-point underdogs. I understand and respect everyone who believes that the Eagles are starting to find their footing. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean have led a revamped defense, led, of course, by Vic Fangio, the defense coordinator.
We never talked about how handsy Cooper DeJean is.
That's what she said. No, it's
Didn't you think that during the game?
Yeah, but that's also just who he is. He's a pesky player.
That's how Sauce Gardner is too. And a lot of people kind of criticized him. Like he never gets called for anything.
Right.
But they know how to do it perfectly.
Yeah, if you don't get called.
Which, I mean, he didn't run the 40 at the combine, but for those who doubted his speed, I mean, look, I don't think he runs a 4.2 or a 4.3, although I think he does run a 4.4, having seen it myself. But I think that he is able to compensate by just having a little bit more physical nature, which I think is something the Eagles craved when they revamped the identity of that defense. I am not going with the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. I will continue to roll with Jaden Daniels and friends. They only lost by a point. They didn't cover that 3.5 point spread last week, or 1.5 point spread that Lauren and I were hoping for. Taylor Dahl won that one with the Steelers, but at the same time, this is a Commanders team that is frisky, and I know there are those who say this is where they start to slide. I, at the very least, think they can cover that 3.5 point spread. Let's head to the MAC. Midweek MACtion, folks. It is back.
Are more people watching MAC or college basketball now, do you think?
A combination of both, I think. Like last night was the Champions Classic, a big, massive win for Kentucky. We'll get to that later in the program. I think it's a combination of the two. I do think we need the snow to start falling in Ohio and Illinois before people really dial in on the MAC. But hey, we only have a couple more weeks of college football, so get it while you can. Speaking of getting it while you can, I don't know if it's the fact that Curtis Rourke is now at Indiana. Curtis Rourke is a dark horse for the Heisman as the quarterback at Indiana University out in Bloomington. His previous stop, the Ohio Bobcats, though, 11-point favorites over Eastern Michigan. Ohio currently in second place in the MAC at 4-1 mark in conference play. They've played one less game than Bowling Green, so this is an opportunity for them to make up some ground against a team in Eastern Michigan that is in the middle of the pack. So give me the Bobcats to cover an 11-point spread.
Taylor wants to bet on Northern Illinois Akron.
Well, here's the thing with Northern Illinois. I picked them to lose, if you remember, in my MyBookie Midday picks a few weeks ago. They have slidden, folks, all the way. I mean, they are, in 8th place now? 7th place in the MAC? A 2-3 mark in the conference, 5-4 overall. So they started out meteoric, but perhaps things have come back down to earth in DeKalb, Illinois. To the NBA. Oh, RJ, this is where...
By the way, I wish they made us play on Wednesday so not everybody saw that.
That's true.
3 MAC games tonight, by the way. So you can tune in to Northern Illinois and be like, how the heck did you beat Notre Dame?
Before I give you my leg in this 5-game parlay for the Orlando Magic, RJ, let the people know what happened last night in the Big O.
Oh, a great win for the Orlando Magic in the first game of the NBA Cup, no longer called the in-season tournament. Great play from Franz Wagner. Proud of the guy. I think he understands that there is pressure on him to be the lead guy in the absence of Juan Paolo Banchero, and he's really been coming through for the team so far. So definitely proud for him. I do believe this is going to work out for the Magic in the long run once Paolo comes back. This is definitely the confidence that you want to have in your secondary superstar, Franz Wagner.
Yeah, the Heeligans were panicked on the text line the last 2 days. Anytime I said Florida is a basketball state, they're like, we lost Paolo, it's over. Long season, folks, and here's a stat for you. Franz Wagner, one of 7 players in the NBA currently averaging 20-plus points, 5-plus rebounds, 4-plus assists, and over 1.5 steals per game. The other 6... Luka Doncic, De'Aaron Fox, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, and Jason Tatum. Sounds pretty good to me. Now, I will not pick a winner in terms of spread or money line. This is a 1-point game currently favoring the Magic tonight, going against the Indiana Pacers. I will take the under, though, because I think both of these defenses have proved something. Scoring is down in the league across the board. So give me the under of 223.5 between the Pacers and the Magic tonight. To college basketball we go. Plenty of mid-major action tonight. And I'm actually going to go to a squad that, quite frankly, I didn't know that they existed until about a week ago. And that is the University of Southern Indiana. Yes, we will stay in the Hoosier State. Southern Indiana has now taken DePaul to overtime. They have taken Bucknell to overtime. They lost by 14 on the road in Huntington, West Virginia against Marshall. They lost all 3 of those games. They're 0-3. They're taking on the A-Suns Bellarmine tonight. And at the very least, I think it'll be another heartbreaker for the Screaming Eagles. Talk about a great mascot. Plus 4.5. The Eagles will cover that going up against the Knights of Bellarmine in Louisville. And finally, this is a long-awaited leg of the parlay, ladies. To UFC this weekend. I know that our MMA analyst, Bo Valentine, a.k.a. Kevin, is usually providing me insights, and he just texted me a whole line of, are you going to pick this guy? Are you going to pick that guy? I don't even care what's happened over the last X amount of months, years. It became known to me that folks in this part of the world don't realize that John Bones Jones, who will make his long-awaited return at MSG on Saturday night, is a native of Ithaca, New York. I once did party with John Bones Jones. Shout out to the Moon Shadow Tavern. I'm curious about his conditioning, knowing he has been suspended, reinstated. We haven't really seen him in consistent action month over month, year over year. So I do have this one going over 1.5 rounds. Not going to pick a winner, but I do think John Bones Jones will get it done. But give me the over 1.5 in the main event of Saturday's UFC event.
How old is the guy he's going up against? Because Jones is 37.
Yeah, Stipe he is 42.
Okay.
So battle of some vets. We got some vets in the main event in the
seasoned fighters there.
Yes, exactly.
Don't we have the Mike Tyson?
We have that on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the weekend for the OGs.
Yeah.
So that we got all the vets.
Tyson
coming,
the OG.
Yes, exactly. We got them all coming out of retirement. So UFC 309. I think John Jones will get it done. Just because he's from Ithaca, New York, and so I have to legally root for him. But also, I do think that the fact that he hasn't really fought consistently in a couple of years, that's where I think this one, I don't know if it'll go to the cards, but I do think it goes over 1.5 rounds. So those are my MyBookie midweek picks. That's a 5-game, 5-event parlay. The Washington Commanders plus 3.5. The Ohio Bobcats minus 11. The under in the Pacers Magic game tonight. Southern Indiana covering a 4.5-point spread at Bellarmine. And finally, over 1.5 rounds for John Bones Jones in the main event of UFC 309 this weekend. Head on over to mybookie.ag. Place your bets. Use promo code 1010XL for a double deposit bonus up to $1,000. And of course, risk-free Thursdays. Find the boost odds. Get in the action. And if you push on a bet, you also get your money back.
I've got a saucy nug for you when it comes to the NFL. On the other side, you are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Mia here for Duck Duck Rooter. The holidays are coming, and so is your family. Is your septic system ready? What about that leaky kitchen faucet or that toilet that's been struggling to flush? Don't let plumbing chaos steal your holiday cheer. Call Duck Duck Rooter today to fix those issues before Aunt Linda and Cousin Earl blame you for ruining Thanksgiving dinner. Call 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Duck Duck Rooter is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904-395-5598.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question, folks. Dreamfinders Homes was the builder for me. A big reason why? Their unbeatable interest rates. Right now, you can take advantage of a 2.99% year one rate. Hold up, let me say that again, because that's basically unheard of up and down the eastern seaboard, folks. 2.99% year one rate. Wow. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700. Office is Jacksonville, Florida. And don't let the state decide your fate.
Helmets and heels.
Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday. Now, it's time to showcase the Crown Royal Special Teams Player of the Game. Live generously and life will treat you royally.
Logan Cook gave a steamy performance on Sunday against the Vikings. The Jacksonville punter had 5 punts for 274 yards, with his longest punt going for 68 yards. Cook sliced and diced the opposition on his way to a spectacular showing, and he's your Crown Royal Special Teams Player of the Game.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. I've been playing and winning with Prize Picks, and you should too. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with more than 10 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. Think Brian Thomas Jr. will get more or less than 80.5 yards? It's just that simple. And now you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quickly as 15 minutes. Now, here's the best part. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. That means your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code JAX, J-A-X, and get $50 instantly when you play 5. It's all there at Prize Picks. Run your game.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On November 13th, 1985, baseball pitcher Dwight Gooden becomes the youngest player to be awarded the Cy Young Award and the Pitcher of the Year Award.
This is David with Royal Pest Services. Join us Friday, November 15th from 12 to 2 with Helmets and Heels at Tony D's for our customer appreciation.
And there'll be free slices for you guys.
Tony, you've been down here long enough. It's y'all.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to CarlsonDentalGroup.com. That's CarlsonDentalGroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the country that offers multi-unit hair grafting, FUE NeoGraft hair transplants, and the 45-minute effective PRP treatments.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
Thank you, IHRS.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Schedule a free evaluation and find out how to grow your hair back and keep the hair you have. Call 904-777-IHRS. Take the first step to restoring your hair today. Visit hairforme.com.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
IHRS has been restoring hair for men and women for over 30 years.
Call now for a free in-person or virtual evaluation. 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Or visit hair4me.com.
Electricians, innovators, and tech enthusiasts, listen up. Miller Electric is shaping the future, and we want you to be a part of it. From healthcare and data centers, corporate offices, aviation, and industrial facilities, Miller Electric is powering the most exciting projects in Jacksonville and beyond. We offer not just a job, but a thrilling career with great pay and incredible benefits. Visit us at millercareers.com to apply. Miller Electric, where your skills meet our vision, and equal opportunity employer.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson with the latest update this morning on Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor will be out. We just decided this week he's getting close, but to make sure that, again, you guys know how I am with injuries. We don't want to put a player out there that's not 100%. So we're gonna rest him one more week.
Do you think you'll be ready to go after the bye week, or is that still a question?
Still a question mark, but I'm optimistic. Yeah.
Doug Peterson with the latest injury update on Trevor Lawrence this morning. According to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, Lawrence is dealing with a significant AC joint sprain in his left shoulder. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale Lighting, Fans, and Home Decor on 1010XL.
Taylor Dahl, Mia O'Brien, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Yesterday was an epic Cool Heating and Air Tuesday, and today we want to say thank you to Frank with Epic Cool Heating and Air for the Chick-fil-A lunch that he brought us.
Yes, thank you, Frank.
We
I
so
love some
appreciate
Chick-fil-A.
it. Yes, you do.
We love
and I love
Chick-fil-A
some-
on helmets and heels.
We will also be giving away some Chick-fil-A later in the show, so stay tuned for that. I told you I had an NFL Saucy Nug. The 3 games this week between 7-win teams, Commanders, Eagles, Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Bills, are the most in Week 11 in NFL history. We've never
Saucy
had.
Nugs.
That's right. We've never had 3 games between 7-win teams or more in NFL history in Week 11. How is that possible?
Well, that's where I wonder. And again, it's so fascinating because I would argue, and to Taylor's point earlier in the program about how many one-score games we've seen across the league, you could make the argument that some of these 7-win teams, i.e. the Washington Commanders, who are a surprise, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who somehow, some way keep plugging along, you could argue they are not necessarily among the most elite teams in the National Football League. And so that's what's so fascinating to me is I would argue parity is up, yet that is not the case if you look at the standings.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm slowly getting more on board that the Steelers are a really good football team. We
even
talked about it
without Justin
yesterday.
Fields starting.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and I was kind of like, I don't know. It might be a little fluky, but Russ is playing better, and the defense is really good. But yesterday when I got home, I went and I was watching some of the All-22 from Russ's starts, and he looks like old Russ recently.
So you have to wonder, what did Sean Payton do wrong in Denver to create him being a terrible quarterback, and now he's
and then he's
good.
first
Nathaniel Hackett got his hands on
did.
him. That's true.
But still, it's Sean Payton, one of the best offensive minds in the league.
It is wild because it really looks in each game he's looked more Russ. And so that was interesting. I also, like I said, I already thought their defense was one of the better defenses. Watching watching some of the All-22 yesterday, I was like, man, this honestly might be a good Steelers team and with George Pickens and the connection that him and Russ have been able to have, all of a sudden Najee Harris is playing like you thought Najee Harris could play. And I'm like, they might be good.
And we know their defense is
might
always
be
good.
Might be actually
It's funny. I feel like George Pickens let the world know that it would be Russell Wilson starting over Justin Fields when at first Mike Tomlin said he wasn't going to announce that.
Right. Yeah.
But because A, it's gone so well, and B, because Mike Tomlin just has everything always in order, that's just a non-story. It wasn't a big story then. It's just flown under the radar.
Let me ask you this. When you look at division by division, the standings in the NFL right now, I'm curious what you guys make of this. The AFC East, the race is basically over.
Oh, yeah.
The Bills
Unless
are sitting...
somehow the Dolphins, like we talked about yesterday, can get on a hot
But
streak.
even then, that would be as a wild card team.
Right.
The AFC East division race is, for all intents and purposes, it's over.
Yeah.
The Bills are winning the division at 8-2 because all 3 remaining teams have 3 wins. So I don't think there's any way in heck any of them catch them.
Yeah, injuries aside, absolutely.
In the AFC West, the Chiefs sit at 9-0, the Chargers at 6-3, the Broncos 5-5 hanging around, but that division also feels like it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Does it not?
That division has felt like it's over since Patrick Mahomes
You're not wrong.
was starting in 2018.
The AFC South. Look, we haven't even mentioned the real news of the day in the National Football League in the AFC South. Anthony Richardson has been reinstated as the starter in Indianapolis. I don't think that gets it done outside of maybe this week against the Jets.
That's the fun part. When the Jaguars are this bad, it is sometimes you spend more time looking at teams that are also a disaster.
Right.
And so I feel like Colts-Jets is it's the train wreck that you're not supposed to be rubbernecking and looking
But you're going
at.
to be watching it.
But you're like, oh, which quarterback will play worse? Will it be Anthony Richardson? Will it be Aaron Rodgers?
Right. And so here's the thing. The Colts are sitting at 4-6. the Texans, who have plenty of flaws of their own, are at 6-4, yet it feels like that division is largely wrapped up. Does it not?
Yeah.
And so that's where I look at this. And outside of the AFC North, which, oh, by the way, the Bengals are in third with a 4-6 record. The Steelers and Ravens both have 7 wins. So that is the only competitive race that we just described in the AFC right now. And that is where, to this question of parity in so many 7-win teams, it's just so hard to rack your brain around, especially considering how many one-score games we've had across the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just crazy when you go through and you look at, because when you look at the graphic that they pop up on the screen now where it's like in the hunt, the amount of teams in the hunt that are
The
like
Jags are still in the hunt.
that are 2-3 wins. I mean, it's literally 1, 2,
Photographer,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in the AFC are 3 wins or under.
Photographer extraordinaire Jacob Simmons came up to me in the middle of pregame and goes, "Did you just see what Fox flashed on the screen?" And I'm like, "No." And he holds up his phone and it says the Jags in the hunt on Fox's pregame broadcast on Sunday. I was like, "You got to be kidding." He's like, "Hey, there's a chance, just got to
The
win
AFC
today."
North has a huge game on Sunday, 1:00, Ravens at the Steelers. We'll pick that games, but man alive, if the Steelers are able to somehow, some way come up with enough defensive answers to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, it feels like you can say the Steelers are going to win the division if they win that game.
Yeah, it'll be 8-2 and 7-4 all of a sudden, just like that.
And then, of course, they play each other once more. We get that game December 21st at 4:30. But it's similar to the college football games, which now are starting to become elimination games. It's starting to feel like that in the NFL, even though it's still early. All right, so have y'all started looking at mock drafts?
No.
I honestly have not a ton yet. I've seen people when they're like, here is the maybe top 10, those type things, but I have not gotten deep into the mocks yet. Have you, Lauren?
I started this week because I was like, let's just see what they say as far as the quarterbacks are concerned. Where does Carson Beck fall now? Outside the top 10 is the answer. Who do they think the Jaguars will pick now that Jaguars do have the first overall pick? And in a few different ones I saw, it's Travis Hunter, who, of course, can be both a wide receiver or a cornerback. We'll see if he becomes a two-way player like Dion once upon a time was. I highly doubt that in the NFL. Most people are predicting that he's going to be a wide receiver because of the fact that you make a lot more money as a receiver, even though some of the corners are making elite money. Yeah. But still, the wide receiver market is so high. And so I doubt if the Jaguars have the first overall pick as we sit here right now on November 13th that they'll stick with the number 1 pick because I'm sure another team is going to trade up to get a quarterback. But if it was Travis Hunter, how would you feel?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I am A-okay with it. And I've seen some of you hooligans out there on X, on Facebook, on Instagram debating it and saying the same thing.
Because we have nothing else.
No, but that's
about Jags Lions.
The reality is that Travis Hunter is 2 things. And I'm not just talking about playing wide receiver and cornerback. Travis Hunter is a blue chip player. The Jaguars don't have a lot of blue chip players, which for those of you who are unfamiliar, when you look at a roster in the National Football League, that is certainly a grade that across the league rosters use that system of who is a blue chip player on your roster. You obviously would like to have more of those blue chip players, but you're okay with having the greens. If you've listened to Daniel Jeremiah's Move the Sticks, they go through in the offseason each roster and identify who's a green, who's a blue, who's a yellow, which is question marks, who's a pink, which is an unproven young player. And so
it changes year to year.
Correct.
Obviously.
The other thing that Travis Hunter is an alpha dog. And what have we spent the better part of the last 10 weeks saying? This team doesn't have an alpha dog.
Yeah.
The comparison that I continue to make, and for you NBA fans, I hope you appreciate this. The comparison I keep making is the Minnesota Timberwolves drafted Karl Anthony Towns first overall back in 2015, right, RJ? 2015. Karl Anthony Towns was the face of their franchise. He is a top 10 to 25 player in the National in the National Basketball Association, depending on the year. But what Karl Anthony Towns is not is I'm going to beat you at all costs. I'm going to trash talk you. I'm going to be leading this team, and I have swag, and I lead by example in how I approach the game because I love basketball. And that's not to say he doesn't love basketball. That's just to say that he isn't quite as abrasive in both his playing style and how he approaches leadership.
So the Jaguar stars, good at football, but not necessarily edgy enough to be able to take this team where they need to go.
Correct. Who is the swag? And I don't mean that you have to be this abrasive in your face leader and that the Jaguars need to go find somebody like that. I don't want this to be a cancer on the team. What the Minnesota Timberwolves did when they had the number 1 overall pick again in 2020 was they selected Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, in addition to being just a hilarious personality, is an alpha dog basketball player. He isn't necessarily yelling, screaming, complaining. I'm not saying you need to go find a Jalen Ramsey or somebody who's going to be, in your face and doing crazy things off the court.
Because he has no leadership.
What Anthony Edwards is he is a guy who plays with such passion and swag that it is infectious, and he isn't afraid to raise his voice. He isn't afraid to be the guy that gets in someone's face and holds them accountable. And that's not to say that Karl Anthony Towns can't do the same, but every team needs the Batman. It's great to have a couple of Robins, don't get me wrong, but you don't have Batman. Travis Hunter could be that Batman.
This Saturday, Utah at Colorado at noon. So for those Jaguars fans that are starting to not enjoy Sundays as much as they enjoy Saturdays, that game kicks off the slate on Saturday, and you'll get to see Travis Hunter play both ways.
I also think that at some point you want to pick the best player and not somebody who could possibly be the best player in 3 years. And that's been one of the Jags' biggest problems. And normally more so in the second, third round has been their problem. But at some point, if this is the best player coming into this draft that can make the most immediate impact and also in a position that you need, I think it is obviously where you want to go. I do think the storyline of where he plays will be one, but I think here we already talked about they're going to have to revamp the secondary pretty much totally anyways. They also would not be hurt by getting a wide receiver. So either way, you win in that scenario. I saw one today where they got Mason Graham out of Michigan, and I was like, people would probably lose their minds here if they took a defensive tackle first overall. I think Mason Graham will, at this point at least, will go in the top 10. But people here would be like, are you kidding?
And look, they'll address offensive line, defensive line for sure. But yeah, when it comes to playmakers, that's what you need to add to your team. And I guess I'm of the philosophy that you can't give Trevor enough weapons. And I'm sure some people going into this season thought that they had done that. And so he's supposed to be elevating them. And obviously we know now that that hasn't happened, whether that's Trevor's fault, the line's fault, the receiver's fault,
everybody's
play
fault.
calling's fault. Right. All of that is
the
mixed
entire
in.
ecosystem.
Yeah, but I do think, to your point, Mia, as far as the leaders on this Jaguars team, Trevor Lawrence has to be your leader. He's, I think, much more soft-spoken. Josh Hines-Allen is a leader, but I don't think he's the aggressive mentality.
Right, and that's okay. You can still have those guys. They can still
Christian
be
Kirk, Evan
leaders.
Ingram,
Right.
good guys. Travis Etienne, they're all good guys. I just don't think they're the type of...
Right.
Yeah.
You want to know who was the last time? And look, he was by far not among the top 5 best players on that roster. But the last time you had a guy like that, dare I say it, it's the man who built the city, Arden Key. That's the last time you had someone who would grab the bull by the horns and say, look, we aren't playing up to our standard. We need to start doing that. And would have no problem talking to the media, building his guys up, while also on the field saying, you know what, that's not good enough. On the practice field, the morning that so many of us flew back from Canton, Ohio, from Tony Baselli's Hall of Fame induction, reportedly, because we weren't there, but from the reporters who were, it was Arden Key 3 weeks into his Jaguars tenure who pulled everybody aside and said, what you are doing right now is not winning football. They don't have somebody like that right now.
Well, speaking of winning football, we'll chat with Dan Miller on the other side. He's the radio play-by-play voice for the Detroit Lions. RJ's done a great job. Last week we had Paul Allen, the play-by-play voice for the Vikings. So next we'll chat with Dan and see just what the Lions are made of, which we know is right now just one loss in the NFL. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Get entertaining insight on Sunday's games all day Monday.
They came together as a team.
Sink your teeth into Dandy Foods Postgame Monday.
It is a game.
Makers of quality fresh sandwiches and home of the good stuff on 1010XL. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Mia here for my friends at Projax Roofing. Meteorological hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th. If your roof took on any damage at all during Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton, know that Projax Roofing is here to help. From the smallest of repairs to full roof replacements, my friend Mike has been serving all of Northeast Florida for 25 years. While we hope we won't see any more storms in the next 2.5 weeks, if you need any help at all with your roof, call Projax Roofing at 904-338-1722 or online at projaxroofingfl.com.
Hacker here, and last Saturday was awesome. Thanks to everyone who came out to my Countdown to 100 Awaken 180 watch party. The wings were flying, beers were being thrown down, and this guy didn't gain a pound back. I had reached my goal of 100 pounds and took a couple of weeks off. What did I find during my weigh-in last week? I actually lost more weight, officially down 110 pounds now. Had a birthday trip, watch party, celebrations, you name it, and I'm down 110 pounds. I weigh now 207. Yeah, 207 when I was close to 320 just 8 months ago. With Awaken 180, I've got the ultimate life back. Losing weight while living it up. It's like cheating the system, but it's all legit. If you're ready to get your health back, join the Awaken 180 movement. Call 844-346-1800 or hit up awaken180weightloss.com. This isn't a diet, it's leveling up your life. Hacker out, because I'm keeping it real and light.
Mia here for MyBookie. Our listeners have been killing it in a year full of surprises. MyBookie is the one book that's got your back. No fluff, no second guessing, straight up action. Does your other sports book pay out when you push on a bet? MyBookie pays you back. And if you're new to the game and not sure where to start, we've got you covered. Step 1, use our promo code 1010XL. That will double your bankroll with a 100% deposit bonus right from the jump. Here's a pro tip to get you rolling. The NFL teams with powerhouse offensive lines are dominating the run game this year, and betting game total unders has been printing money. Stack that with MyBookie's risk-free Thursdays. Why wait? That's right there, a new risk-free odds boost every Thursday. To find the bet, click the Bet Boost tab and scroll down. If it hits, you win. If it doesn't, MyBookie refunds your money. Sign up now and get your double deposit bonus with MyBookie, the best sign-up bonus for Florida bettors. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie.
I'm Frank Frangie for Ricketts Electric. Hurricane season is here, and now's the time to think about a home generator. My friends at Ricketts Electric can make sure your home always has power. They can install the perfect generator for your home and are even offering a 10% discount this month if you mention 1010XL. So call my friend Zach Ricketts today at 904-320-5960 or find them on Facebook. That's Ricketts Electric, the city's best power connection. Call them at 320-5960.
At Honda, we appreciate all the comparisons to other vehicles. And no matter how many times they compare their vehicles to a Honda, only a Honda is a Honda. Remember, value, quality, safety, there is no substitute. Visit your local Honda dealer now and experience the difference.
It's a Helmets and Heels Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
AC replacement? If your AC unit is ready to go kaput, then it's time to call Florida Home AC. With over $3,000 in tax credits waiting for you on select systems, take advantage of it. Call 777-4300. Get Florida Home AC to cool you off.
When my wrist pain was acting up and I needed help, I took Dan Hickens' advice and headed over to see the experts at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. This is Stuart Moore with the PGA Tour. I highly recommend Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. Whenever you have a need, they took great care of me. They'll take great care of you.
This is Dr. Kevin Murphy. The next time you need orthopedic care, you can rely on our team at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Budweiser reminds us to drink wiser, like hydrating between beers. It keeps the fun going longer, and it's a commitment to responsibility. Remember, good times are ahead, so no need to overdo it. Know when to say when, and always designate a driver.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Discover luxury storage life at The Shed, opening soon in Atlanta Beach, for a place to store your cars, boats, and toys. A place for an office, a golf simulator, or a man cave. AC and plumbing available. The list of premium uses is endless. Take a tour on Instagram or go to theshedjacks.com.
This is Chelsea with Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors. Here's what people are saying about working with us.
Installers were professional, courteous, and efficient.
Great customer service. On time, explained the process, and walked me through the installation. Amazing team.
Our experience with Renewal by Anderson was outstanding from the beginning to end.
Renewal by Anderson, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit rbafla.com.
License number CGC 1527613.
Renewal by Anderson, custom windows and doors.
Our slogan, Know Before You Blow, applies to more than just DUI cases. Hi, I'm attorney Lee Lockett of Lockett Law. Battery charges can result in jail time and criminal convictions too, so know before you blow a gasket and hit a loved one or a stranger. Drug crimes like possession of marijuana and cocaine will land you in cuffs too, so know before you blow. In a boating under the influence case, you also have the option to blow or not to blow. So know your options. Know before you blow. Go to knowbeforeyoublow.com now. Offices Jacksonville.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by Advanced Business Solutions. The Florida Gators were without a lot of key starters in a blowout loss to Texas this past Saturday, which included freshman quarterback DJ Lagway. Head coach Billy Napier hopes the time off allowed his players to recover and get back to being healthy when the LSU Tigers come to town Saturday.
We do anticipate getting healthier. Hopeful to get a handful of these guys back this week. And we had a lot of them that were close to being available this past Saturday that didn't quite turn around in time. But in general, a very important week. We're excited to be back home and look forward to the challenge here playing this LSU team.
Gators and Tigers are in the Swamp Saturday at 3:30. Catch the game live on 1010XL 92.5 FM. It's 80 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Garber Auto Mall phone line.
Hello.
We can wiggle it.
Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you. And we welcome in Dan Miller, radio play-by-play voice of the Detroit Lions. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. How are you today?
We are great, thank you. Although we're talking about a 2-8 football team, you're obviously talking and calling games of an 8-1 football team. There are so many storylines. Jared Goff and the resurgence of him playing quarterback. Certainly, Dan Campbell and his post-game dances and handing the game balls out is so much fun to watch. And of course, just the Lions overall now being a team that's perennially in the playoffs. What would you say is the best aspect of this team?
I think it's just that they have turned the organization around and made it into one that is respected, that people are looking at when they rebuild their organizations and say, okay, what did Detroit do? How did they do it? Because they've built it on a strong foundation. It's built to last. It's built around a lot of young players that are still getting better. And that was really never the case in Detroit. You know, we had playoff teams here and there where Matthew Stafford might drag them up and down the field and Calvin Johnson would do some heroic things. But we really never had anything that looked like it had any sustainability. So to be seen now as a franchise that's doing things the right way and smart and handling their business and drafting well and developing well, I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what's led to success.
You can find him on X at Dan Miller Fox 2. He is the play-by-play for the Detroit Lions. Dan, I don't want to say we're not going to talk about this matchup during this interview, but something tells me we are going to spend more time over the next 10 minutes talking about what you just referenced as opposed to the Jaguars and the Lions actually coming up on Sunday. Let's talk a little bit more. What was it that the Lions did in this rebuild? Is it solely Dan Campbell? Is it solely Brad Holmes? How did they tear this thing down? What then became the next step, and why do we see them succeeding the way that they are 4 years later?
I'm glad you asked the question because I like to tell the story because it really is the reason that they are where they are. And it's neither of the people that you just mentioned. They're obviously part of it. But their owner, Sheila Hamp, in 2021, when she decided, or I guess it was 2020, when she decided to get rid of the previous regime, she could have gone out and just hired a head coach and hired a general manager, but she didn't do that. She let go of them during the season, and at that point, she did a deep dive into her organization. She talked to people from all corners of it and found out it wasn't a good place to work. That people were very unhappy. They did not feel valued. There was no collaboration. You were either made to feel like like you're part of the football organization or you're not part of anything. So anybody in sales, community relations, public relations, media relations, anything else was made to feel like they didn't matter. And she knew that was a problem, that they couldn't be successful until they changed that. So she went about deciding what they wanted to be and the type of values and culture they wanted to have. And that's a word we use all the time. Most of the time we use it wrong. But when you know it, you see it, and you understand it, then you know it's being used right. And they have a culture. And she went out and hired Chris Spielman, who's an all-time great Lion and loved, revered here in Detroit. And they set about, deciding what a Lion looked like and what a Lion organization looked like and what it should be like for everybody coming to work every day in every single corner. And then she, Chris Spielman, their president, Rod Wood, their COO, Mike Disner, everybody they hired, including the head coach and the general manager, had to believe in those same core values because that's what was going to guide the franchise. And that's really how they built this thing. Then you can get into, okay, Brad Holmes is really good at his job and drafts good guys. And then Dan Campbell hired a terrific coaching staff and has, made changes along the way, but a coaching staff that knows how to develop players. Because if you're not doing both things, drafting and developing, you're just not going to succeed. Lions drafted players for years, but very rarely gave out second contracts because most of them fizzled out. Now they're paying out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions to guys that are coming up on second contracts because they want them here for the long term. So, you know what? It's deciding who you are, and then it's having a plan, sticking to the plan, being patient to the plan, and executing the plan. And I've seen plenty of bad plans here for 27 years that I've been in Detroit. And this is by far, not even close, the best that I've seen, and they're just doing it the right way. But it has to permeate your entire organization or it just won't work.
Dan, do you know the meme, Dear Lord, I see what you've done for others, and I want that done to me? That's all I could feel as you were describing that. I know Taylor has some questions for you, but I do want to just hit home the point you made about Spielman coming back, because that has been a hotly debated topic here in Jacksonville. Would Tony Boselli, the one Hall of Famer in the Jaguars' history, be interested in taking on that advising role? I think it's important for our audience to hear there's a differentiation between executive vice president and the role that Chris Spielman had for the Lions, correct?
Oh, no doubt. And look, I know Tony. I've worked with Tony. I love Tony. And Tony has the kind of values that I think Chris does, where he understands not just football, but the organization in the city. And I think that's extremely important for somebody to have if you're going to be in that role. So, look, there were all sorts of questions here about what Chris does. What does Chris do? Is he going to get in the way? Is he going to, make the coaches angry? Is he going to, and it's been anything but that. He is, somebody used that word again, collaborative with the coaching staff, and he dips into kind of everything. And I just did an event with him last night where he told the story. He said, look, we're open enough here that I can go to anybody and say, hey, why don't you think about this? And then maybe Brad Holmes may come to me the next day and say, hey, Chris, back off, because we're going to do it this way. And Chris will say, you know what, I will. And then sometimes they'll say, you know what, Chris, you got a good point. So if you have that trust in your organization between people where it's not about them, it's about what's best for the team, and you're working for the team, then you're headed in the right direction.
Dan, Taylor Dahl here. I do want to talk a little bit more about that draft approach, because I think that it's something that it's hard to grasp, and certain organizations I think focus too much on certain things, whether it's a certain type of player, and we joke about arm length here and things like that. But I feel like the Lions have had this thing where they're just like, get the guy that you love, because even in years when people have questioned, when it came down to Penei Sewell, when it came to drafting a running back in the first, when it came to getting a tight end when you already had a tight end, the obvious one probably Aiden Hutchinson, not overthinking that one. But what has been the approach in this draft in these last 3-4 years that you feel like why it's worked so well?
Well, I think Brad Holmes is really good at his job, and all the things that you just talked about certainly go into it. They look at all those things and try to understand, how a guy fits what they want to do. Does the guy's style fit what they want to do? Does the guy's character fit the type of organization that they want to be? And look, they're not perfect. Sometimes, they've brought guys in that they didn't feel necessarily worked out, but their hit rate has been incredible. And I would say this. it's not just draft day. It has to be beyond that. And it has to be a coaching staff that understands that guys don't come into this league understanding what it is to be an NFL player. You have to teach them. And the best programs, organizations year to year, the ones that do it every year, Baltimore, Pittsburgh in particular, I think I look at, they know what a Steeler looks like. They know what a Raven looks like. And they stick to that, and then they know how to develop them. And they can let guys go in free agency because they know they got another guy coming up behind them. So it's a two-pronged thing. It's drafting and developing. And it is really, it's what you said, it's drafting the guy that's right for you. And, yeah, they got a lot of grief. People wondered it. There were people on TV saying, does Brad Holmes know what he's doing when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs? Well, you know what? He does.
Yeah.
And Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most explosive players in this league. And he fit them perfectly. And Jack Campbell, another guy, a linebacker that maybe people thought you don't draft an off-ball linebacker in the first round. Well, he leads them in tackles. He was slow developing at times as a rookie. But this year he's just taken off, and he's been terrific. And it's just, again, it's not arrogance, and it's not, you're not going to hit all the time, but it is having conviction to do things your way and then sticking to it and not doing what we saw other regimes do here in Detroit, which was, well, that didn't work. Let's pivot and go this way, and then let's pivot and go this. They don't do that. They just have their way of doing it, and they're going to stick to it. And if it doesn't work, they're going to, it's not going to work, and they're going to get fired because it didn't work. But they did it their way, and that's the way it's going to happen.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. Does he want to come down to Jacksonville?
You got to ask him. You know what? I think Ben is. I think he'll be asked again by a number of teams this offseason. I think it becomes pretty clear. And look, I don't know all of Ben's inner thinking. All I can tell you is this: he likes it here. His family's comfortable here. He has a lot of autonomy here. He has a great relationship with the quarterback here. And wherever he goes, he wants to make sure that it is set up that he can succeed, whether it's having a quarterback, an owner who knows what they're doing and doesn't meddle and get in the way. I think all those things play into it. And I think he only has to look at his head coach and realize, I don't remember if there was 6, 7, 8 coaches that came in the cycle with Dan Campbell. There's 2 left, and it's him and Sirianni, and that's it. And you know what? If these coaches take the wrong jobs with the wrong organizations, they're not going to last very long. And I know that's not where Ben wants to be. He doesn't want to be a head coach just to be a head coach. He wants to be a head coach if he can be successful. And if that right offer doesn't come along, he's got a really good gig here where they pay him a lot of money. He's got a lot of good players, and I think he's very content. I still think one day he'd like to do it, but it's got to be the right situation.
A guy by the name of Urban Meyer was a part of that same hiring cycle, Dan. So, yeah. We
seemed like ages ago.
Very familiar.
And you know what? Hey, you know what? There were people that said, why weren't the Lions bold and go out and get Urban Meyer?
Mm-hmm.
And just so you don't know. And look, guys, I've been through so many hirings here in Detroit where people thought, hey, that's a good hire. That's a good hire. You know, Bob Quinn was one of the next up-and-coming GMs. Matt Patricia was one of the next up-and-coming head coaches. There was almost, riots in the streets because they thought they had lost him here to the New York Giants. But it didn't work out, and this is nothing personal against Matt Patricia. It's just you don't know. You don't know until they're actually in that job and you see how they conduct themselves, how do they do business, and how are they going to succeed at this level in the NFL. And it's, man, I've been through enough of them to know that if you think you know the day that they're introduced, you're wrong. You don't. It's what they do when they get on the job.
I do want to ask, because obviously as we're getting ready for this matchup this weekend, I think for the most part, we know what the Lions' run game can look like. We know the trenches are some of the best, even without Aiden Hutchinson out there, that defensive front and their offensive line. We know what Jared Goff can do. Even when throwing picks, he's able to rally late and bring this team back. I think some of maybe the questions are the secondary. Maybe people not as familiar with that, using 2 draft picks on Ennis Rakestraw and Taron Arnold this last year. But how is that secondary looking so far, and what can the Jags expect? Obviously, looking like Mac Jones will be starting this weekend.
Yeah, secondary is probably the most improved part of the team. They brought in Carlton Davis, a veteran corner who's been terrific, had 2 interceptions the other night. He's provided just some stability back there. Moving Brian Branch from nickel to safety has been just a incredible success. I think he's putting himself up there with the best safeties in the league. If you look at the numbers that people rate, he's right up there. Kirby Joseph is playing next to him, and he's been terrific, and they've been great together. 10 interceptions between them. Terrion Arnold has looked like a rookie at times, but he's got a ton of talent, and I think he's going to be fine. But he's definitely endured some difficult times. And Meek Robertson is a veteran they picked up from the Raiders, and he's played the nickel for him, and he's been solid. And so I think the secondary, they were playing last year with practice squad guys and guys from deep in the depth chart, and they had so many injuries. They revamped that whole thing, and it's been terrific. But the key is going to be, can they get a pass rush? And they got a decent one the other night. But that has to be a staple here. Zadarius Smith is going to play. Josh Paschal was back for the first time in a couple of weeks last week, and he looked terrific. Aleem McNeil's having a Pro Bowl year at defensive tackle. DJ Reader has been really good as well. So it's can they get enough pressure to allow those guys in the secondary to make plays? Because I don't care who's back there. You can have Revis Island all the way around, but if you don't put some pressure on the quarterback, guys in this league are going to beat you. So that's my outstanding question with this team is, without Aiden, can they get consistent pressure on the passer? Because as these games get tougher, and every game's tough in this league, including this Sunday, nobody thinks they're just going to walk out there and win. You got to find some way to impact the passer, and that's what I'm keeping my eye on the rest of the way.
Hey, Dan, one more before we let you go on the Garber Auto Mall hotline. Dan Miller, the play-by-play voice for the Detroit Lions, joining us here on Helmets and Heels. This is off of our text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. One of our listeners is wondering, did you think when Jared Goff was traded from the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford was dealt away, that Goff would be the quarterback of the future in Detroit?
No, I didn't. I certainly was a little bit surprised. I had a question as to whether or not, and I believe that night there was a conference call with Brad Holmes, and I asked the first question. It was, is he your quarterback of the future? And I think Holmes gave me a complete non-answer, which you would expect him to do, and I love Brad, and that's what general managers do. But two people in the building believed that he was from day one, and that's Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew, the general manager and the assistant general manager, both of whom were with the Rams when they drafted him. And they truly believed that if you surrounded him with the right personnel, that he could be your starting quarterback. And that's exactly what they've gone out doing. They've given him one of the best offensive lines in football, explosive running backs, one of the top receivers in the league in Amon-Ra, an explosive one in Jameson, a terrific tight end in Laporta, and on down the line. So there was belief within the organization that they could do that with him. And I think Dan Campbell bought in as well. And they endured some tough times early because it was ugly. But their faith has been borne out. But a long way of answering your question and a short way to say it is there weren't many people, if any, outside of this building that I'm looking at right now as I sit in the parking lot, that thought that he was going to be the long-term answer at quarterback. But clearly he has been everything they could have hoped for and more.
Well, Dan, we cannot thank you enough for spending time with us today, and hope you have a good time on Sunday in Detroit.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dan.
So Ray Agnew, mark that name down, assistant general manager of the Lions.
I've floated that name to a couple of league sources throughout the last few weeks. The only thing with Ray Agnew is I believe he is, 50-something years old? He is 56. And the argument I've heard around the league is we've never had a first-time general manager at 56 years old.
How old is Trent?
Trent's
just to compare.
He's 56 as well, but obviously this was not his first rodeo.
No, second time.
Yeah, I believe Trent is 59, I want to say. Yeah, he just turned 60.
Well, there you have it. By the way, Taylor knows this stat, I'm sure, but 4 of the top 7 teams when it comes to takeaways all reside in the NFC North.
Yeah.
The Vikings have 20,
insane.
the Packers have 19, the Lions have 18, and the Bears have 16. That division, if you want to win it, you better take that ball away. All right, we've got a tangent from Taylor Dahl when we return. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 10 to Next on 92.5 FM.
This hour of Helmets and Heels is brought to you by First Coast Honda dealers. In every game, there's a guy who just makes plays.
He's their best home run hitter and elusive generational type back.
Listen for the Universal Roof and Contracting Offensive Player of the Game. Experience the universal difference on 1010XL.
Hey, it's Mike Dempsey, and you know how I feel about Pella Windows and Doors. Great design, strongest warranties, and the highest quality product. I even chose Pella Windows for my own home. And whether you're a homeowner replacing windows or building a new home or a trade professional working with clients, I know the design experts at Pella will help your project run smoothly and look great. Visit PellaJacks.com or the Pella showroom on Phillips Highway. That's Pella Windows and Doors.
At Hodges Mazda, they are proud of their solid reputation in the Jacksonville community. Lauren Brooks here. As your hometown Mazda dealer, their high customer service standards and their huge inventory of new and used cars provide their customers a consistently first-rate car buying experience. Their professional, non-commissioned sales team puts your best interest first without exception. And every vehicle purchased from Hodges Mazda comes with 2 years free maintenance. Visit Hodges Mazda today or shop online at HodgesMazda.com and discover the Hodges Mazda difference.
Make a crucial catch against colon cancer. Hicken here for the Borland Groover Foundation. If you're 45 or older, the ball is in the red zone to get screened. The key to surviving colon cancer, early detection and prevention. 45 is the new 50. Get screened for colon cancer now. The Borland Groover Foundation is a nonprofit organization devoted to building a healthy and equitable community that is free from colon cancer. Visit BorlandGrooverFoundation.com for more.
Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Helmets and heels.
If you're like most Americans, you have a ton of credit card debt and you're paying insane interest rates on that debt every month. Same for car loans and personal loans. Stop getting ripped off. Let Loan Pronto consolidate that debt for you at a significantly lower rate using the equity in your home. Hey, it's Prosser here, and Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line of Credit can get you up to $500,000. So you can consolidate your debt in as fast as 5 days. Their average client saves over $1,000 every month by doing this. Right now is the best time to act. With an Express Equity Line of Credit, you can access up to 90% of your home's equity, usually without an appraisal. Don't put it off. Get your financial house in order for the new year and call Loan Pronto now to see what you can save. It's a free quote and there's no credit pull, unlike the other guys. Call now, 904-999-1508 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
This is Tony Baselli, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I was known for protecting our quarterback. These days, I'm extending that protection to a different arena, your home. I have partnered with Heritage Roofing of North Florida, your premier local roofers with over 25 years of experience. Heritage is your go-to roofer for hurricane preparation with same-day inspections and estimates. They also work with all insurance companies. Let Heritage Roofing of North Florida safeguard your home and family. Visit heritagenfl.com for your free estimate today.
State license CCC 1335410.
Free pizza. Lauren Brooks here. Royal Pest Control says thanks for your business. And they're offering a free slice of Tony D's Pizza while supplies last this Friday noon to 2 as we broadcast live at Tony D's, corner of Bay Meadows and 295.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
Now, the Performance Painting High Performance Play of the Game. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
Jacksonville was excited to see the return of the Mac on Sunday, and he wouldn't disappoint the fans as he'd get the home team on the board early. Mac Jones would find the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown, making the score 7-3 in favor of the Teal and Black with 3:44 left in the first. The Jones score is your Performance Painting Play of the Game.
Does the building you go to work in every day need a little love and attention? Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Great companies take great care of the buildings their staff and customers walk into every day. If the building you're in doesn't match the vision you have for your company, we can help. Go to performance-painting.com. Our highly trained team makes the difference. Quality coatings applied with pride.
Performance Painting.
Cigar smokers, Cigars International Superstore is now open at the Town Center, a massive 6,200 square foot space with over 600 cigar brands, a full-service bar, indoor and outdoor lounges with flat-screen TVs. Grand opening event this Saturday with live music, raffles, and specials. Enjoy $5 off a $25 purchase or more. Just mention code RadioXL at checkout. Don't miss the new Cigars International Superstore grand opening at the Town Center this Saturday.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville. No matter the weather, Triumph has an unbelievable selection of rides where you can get out and just enjoy the highway.
They do. The new Rocket is out with the new color schemes, the Tiger 1200, which has been revamped. These bikes are nice, gorgeous, and ready to ride.
And if you want to take a look at the selection, they can just roll into the showroom and see a full variety.
We've got them all in stock and ready to go.
So if you log on, cyclesofjacksonville.com, search the Triumph line, and then head into the showroom, you'll be impressed. Cycles of Jacksonville.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
You're listening to Helmets and Heels.
Illuminated by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Thanks again to our buddy Frank with Epic Cool Heating and Air for the Chick-fil-A lunch today. Chick-fil-A also brings us Taylor's Tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So I literally forgot what I was about to say.
Just talking about Chick-fil-A.
I was thinking about the St. Brown brothers we just learned, because I was looking and I'm like, it's interesting because obviously Equanimeous St. Brown went to Notre Dame, also played for the Bears. Then Amon-Ra is in Detroit. They also have another brother, Osiris, and I was always like, it's so interesting because his dad's name is John and his dad's name is John Brown, and they all have such different names. But then I was like, hold on, his dad's name's John Brown and they're all Saint Brown. What happened? So we went on this whole search on the break, and then I was just thinking about it. But pretty much his dad thought the name was too boring. He thought Brown was too boring and that Saint Brown would look cooler on the back of a jersey. So, I mean, cool story, I guess.
Yeah, and the kids grew up speaking German because their mom. I think that part's cool, too. He, by the way, could have a big day, even though I thought Justin Jefferson would have a big day last week. He didn't. But it does feel like St. Brown is going to have a big day.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit earlier. You mentioned that 3 games between teams with 7+ wins will all be played this weekend. And so I wanted to go through some of those numbers because it is some interesting stats. And this goes back, it even made me think about when Bia was doing her picks, my bookie picks, because some of them, when it comes to Philly, some of these numbers in Philly right now, what they've done the last 5-6 games, wild. But anyway, so the Eagles have won 5 consecutive games since their Week 5 bye, the second longest active streak in the NFC. Since Week 6, Philadelphia ranks first in scoring defense, 13 points per game allowed, and total defense 200.8 yards per game allowed, and have a plus 82-point differential, the second largest in the NFL in that span, trailing only Detroit. Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts has 16 touchdowns, 8 passing and 8 rushing, and just 1 interception with 126.1 rating in his past 5 games, a stretch that includes becoming the first quarterback in NFL history with a touchdown pass, a rushing touchdown, and a passer rating of 100 or higher in 4 consecutive games. That's for Week 7 to 10. And Week 11, Jalen Hurts can join Patrick Mahomes from 2018 and Aaron Rodgers from 2011 as the only players in NFL history with a passer rating of 115 or higher in 6 consecutive games with a minimum of 15 attempts in each of those games. Add on to this Philly world right now, Eagles running back Saquon Barkley ranks second in the NFL in scrimmage yards 1,149 and rushing yards 991 and can reach 1,000 rushing yards for the 4th time in his career. In 9 career games against Washington, he's had 1,164 scrimmage yards and 8 scrimmage touchdowns, both his career high totals against that opponent. Washington rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels is set to make his 6th career road start and is one of 2 players all time with a passer rating of 90 or higher, minimum of 15 attempts per game in each of his first 5 career road games, joining Dak Prescott. In his first 5 career road games, Daniels had the highest completion percentage with 76.9, 103 of 134. So going back to just that matchup, it is going to be a very fun matchup to watch in general. But I do think that even last week when I said the reason I picked Steelers was I said Washington faced Chicago's defense, couldn't score a touchdown. Washington faced Steelers, and although they did score a touchdown, it didn't look like as much of a high-powered offense. And then now I think Philly's defense in this last 5-6 games has been the best. I mean, it has been the best. It's the best defense in the last 5-game span. So it will be interesting to see that matchup if he can kind of up it a level against a good defense, because when he has, it's been a little bit more of a struggle. But the other one in Baltimore and Pittsburgh, they're 7-3, Baltimore 7-2, Pittsburgh. We talked about this one being an interesting one. Baltimore enters week 11 with the league's top scoring offense, 31.8 points per game, and total offense with 440.2 yards per game, while Pittsburgh possesses the second-ranked scoring defense, 16.2 points allowed per game. The Steelers enter their first divisional game of the season on a 4-game win streak and have averaged 30.8 points per game since week 6, the 3rd most in the NFL over that span, trailing only Detroit. So it's all of these indications of that. Some of those things, like I said, when I went in this spiral last night about Pittsburgh, I was like, dang, I think they might actually be good. And those are some of the reasons why. But I think this is a lot of fun. We talk about those games. It's Washington and Philly, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and Kansas City and Buffalo. 3 really good games that are factoring in big to what the rest of the season could potentially look like for these 6 teams.
Yeah, certainly. It's a fun Sunday. The slate in college football is just okay, I would say, on Saturday, but the NFL schedule is really nice on Sunday. Can I give you all crazy stats since we're doing stats?
Yep.
Brian Thomas Jr. is still 11th in all of the NFL in receiving yards.
And he's 3rd among rookies, trailing only Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, and
that
Bowers
is
playing
after,
tight end.
Right, and that's also...
Neighbors has the exact same amount of yards as Brian Thomas Jr. as of right now, 607.
Despite almost 20 more catches.
Right, like how insane is that?
Yeah.
That again, he's still not the focal point, but even after the last 2 weeks of not getting in the football, he's still 11th in all of the NFL.
Yeah,
those teams go to their playmakers. That's why they have winning records right now.
I do think a lot of it with his have been he's had so many 50, 60-yard catches, too, that those add up really quickly. And some of those other guys are ones that they're getting 10.
Yeah, I don't know that Mac Jones is going to find BTJ for a 50-yarder, but we'll see. It's a possibility. All right, we've got lunch for 2 from Chick-fil-A, which we're eating
also
as well.
eating, yes. Lunch on the ladies, lunch for 2 to Chick-fil-A. Give us a call at 641-1010. Let's say caller number 5.
Thanks again to Frank with Epic Cool Heating and Air. And once again, on Friday, we'll be at Tony D's and free slices courtesy of Royal Pest Services. We're at the corner of Bay Meadows and 295. One segment to go here on Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Helmets and Heels. This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers.
Yo, what's happening, fellas? It's your boy E to the T, and I'm going to keep it real. We could all benefit from a little something extra in the bedroom. Blue Chew can help, and I'm about to tell you how you can get some for free. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in a chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. No doctor visits, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew ships right to your door in a discreet package. Not even them nosy neighbors gonna know what's going on. Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredients and strength for your prescription. And did I mention the chewable? Just like popping a Mentos. And they're made right here in the good old US of A. Now you're asking, how do I get my Blue Chew? Visit BlueChew.com and make sure to enter promo code 1010XL at checkout. Try it for free and just pay $5 shipping. Turn that oh no into a oh yeah. That's right. Use promo code 1010XL and let your boy hook you up with some Blue Chew. Get your confidence back. Visit BlueChew.com.
Mia, here. The holidays are around the corner, and the last thing you want is a septic emergency. Call Duck Duck Rooter and schedule your septic tank pump out or full system inspection today before Grandma and Uncle Eddie come to town. That's Duck Duck Rooter at 904-862-6769. Don't let a septic disaster be the highlight of your holiday dinner. Visit duckduckrooter.com or call today at 904-862-6769.
Greetings from Daytona, where a band of dreamers took a strip of beach and turned it into a proving ground. The Great American Race, where year after year, greatness is the destination.
Start your engines, let's go!
So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. The Daytona 500, February 16th, 2025. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
What makes that famous call?
Dinner's ready.
Even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
It's Helmets and Heels, Kingfish Pest Control Wednesday.
Greenlaw Group is for the insured. If you think you have roof damage, call 904-302-7055 today, and they will schedule you a free roof inspection. Trust their law firm to help you fight your insurance when you need it. These storms can cause damage you may not even see yet. Call Greenlaw Group, 302-7055. There's no cost to retain their law firm and no cost to have your roof inspected. They only get paid if you win. Greenlaw Group, for the insured.
Hey gang, Prosser here, telling you once again about Chad and Sandy Newman. Mortgage rates are down, creating more active buyers and sellers. If you've been waiting, now is a great time to sell your home before more homes flood the market, driving down prices. So maybe you want guaranteed no-hassle home sale, but don't want to give up hard-earned equity to do it. They can handle that. You see, Chad and Sandy can take every problem you think you have and replace it with a promise. Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. The success stories are rolling in. Mike and Lisa in McCormick. We inherited a family home that came with equity but also a mortgage. We needed to sell fast to avoid extra expenses on a second mortgage. We heard about Chad and Sandy on the radio and called. Everything they say on the radio is true. The home sold in 3 days for full asking price. Call Chad and Sandy today, 904-414-6200, or go to chadandsandy.com. That's Chad, ANDSANDY.com.
You've heard fish stories, and Captain Kevin has a million of them.
We love to tell stories, hear your stories.
On the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
Big fish.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Thursday nights at 6.
On 1010XL AM.
Mia here for MyBookie. Our listeners have been killing it in a year full of surprises. MyBookie is the one book that's got your back. No fluff, no second guessing, straight up action. Does your other sports book pay out when you push on a bet? MyBookie pays you back. And if you're new to the game and not sure where to start, we've got you covered. Step 1, use our promo code 1010XL. That will double your bankroll with a 100% deposit bonus right from the jump. Here's a pro tip to get you rolling. The NFL teams with powerhouse offensive lines are dominating the run game this year, and betting game total unders has been printing money. Stack that with MyBookie's risk-free Thursdays. Why wait? That's right there, a new risk-free odds boost every Thursday. To find the bet, click the Bet Boost tab and scroll down. If it hits, you win. If it doesn't, MyBookie refunds your money. Sign up now and get your double deposit bonus with MyBookie, the best sign-up bonus for Florida bettors. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie.
Value or flavor? Price or taste? Why choose when you can get both? With everyday deals at Sunny's. Right now, you can get the pork big deal for $10, the pork and rib combo for $12, and all you can eat ribs for just $19.99. Yep, you heard right. All your favorites are now available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sunny's here. Sunny's Barbecue. Local pitmasters since '68.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars,
Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
In his press conference this morning, Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson declared quarterback Trevor Lawrence out for Sunday's game at Detroit. According to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, Trevor continues to deal with a significant AC joint sprain in his left shoulder. And despite a poor showing by the Jaguars offense against the Vikings, Peterson's confidence remains high in backup quarterback Mac Jones.
It's high. He's excited to have another opportunity. Obviously, a chance for him to rebound, from last week. But I think as a team, same way, rally around him and support him and get ready to play a really good football team.
I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since '87.
A couple of news and notes I want to run through as we cool down. Of course, if you want to talk college hoops here on the Superstation, Yo Girl has you covered. What an event at the Champions Classic last night, of course, between Michigan State and Kansas in Game 1, and then Kentucky and Duke in Game 2. I'm not going to lie, my parents are visiting right now, ladies, so I did go to sleep at halftime of Game 2, so I did not get to see the Mark Pope-led Kentucky Wildcats come back. Justice for Kerr Kriisa. Yes, his name is Kerr Kriisa. He was named in honor of Steve Kerr. Kerr is his first name, but on his third school in college basketball, he now wears his first name on the back of his jersey. Bold move. So, hey, but listen, he's a winner right now. The Wildcats improved to 3-0. 2 costly turnovers by none other than the one and only Cooper Flagg in the final 15 seconds lead to Duke's first loss of the season. So some great basketball last night in the ATL. And speaking of basketball, this one affects those of you following the ASUN Conference on the women's side when it comes to basketball. Carl Semesco has been the head coach of Florida Gulf Coast for the better part of the last 20 years. He has led them to 13 ASUN regular season titles, 14 ASUN tournament titles. The reason, quite frankly, that you never hear UNF and JU's women's teams being able to usurp that top spot is because he has built arguably one of the most consistent mid-majors in the country over the last decade plus. Well, today, it was announced 4 games into the season that Carl Semesco is leaving Florida Gulf Coast to become the head coach of the Atlanta Dream. That means there are 4 head coaching vacancies that remain in the WNBA. Such a weird coaching cycle this offseason. 7 openings for 12 teams. That is not something you see in women's basketball, certainly, but I would argue even the NFL with 32 teams. It's the equivalent of, imagine if there were 15 coaching vacancies or more than that in the NFL. And so a stunner to see a mid-major college coach, even if he has built one of the best programs in the country, leaving to head to the pros. And I'm curious to see if this continues that trend, whether it's women's basketball, men's basketball, college football, of college coaches heading to the pros. Is it because of recruitment? We haven't heard from Carl Semesco just yet, but I'm curious because this is now something we are seeing across many of the major sports.
I saw someone talking about it. Did Kentucky not have any returning play? None?
None. When Mark Pope got there were 0 scholarship players in Lexington, Kentucky, because the players that remained and that said we still want to play, they followed John Calipari to Arkansas. So he has 10 transfers and 3 true freshmen.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
And they beat a Duke team that doesn't have a player on the floor for most of the game that's smaller than 6'5".
Holy moly.
Now, of those transfers, it should be noted, and this was an amazing stat that ESPN pulled up during the game, Taylor, the combined number of career starts of those 10 transfers into Kentucky is more than John Calipari's first 5 teams in Lexington. You take his first 5 teams, first 5 Kentucky teams, because that was, of course, the McDonald's, All-American diaper dandy era, where he brought the one and done to college basketball into the Power then 5 conferences.
Yeah.
If you took the combined career starts of each of those opening day rosters and combined them, that is the only way you eclipse the number of starts that this veteran group Mark Pope has.
I mean, good for Mark Pope, though, because having to just kind of start from the bare, like nothing, pretty much, he had to build that from. So good for him. I guess it is a good program to be able to just start building.
Right. And it was a really cool matchup, too, because at the end of the day, whether you hate Duke, you hate Kentucky, John Shire played at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Pope played at Kentucky. They both won national titles at their alma mater that they now coach.
Yeah.
But neither of them had ever played in the Champions Classic. John Shire had been the assistant coach under Coach K, and so he had been an assistant coach, but they had never coached in the Classic up until this past, when John Shire got there 2 years ago, and then Mark Pope this year.
A few NFL notes, Taylor. No take Bigsby at practice, at least during the media viewing portion. And Antonio Pierce tells reporters that Gardner Minshew will get the start at quarterback against the Dolphins. I tell you that because I believe
Hold on, who said what?
Antonio Pierce said Gardner Minshew will get to start at quarterback this week. You have Gardner Minshew on your dynasty league.
My dynasty quarterback has been a struggle this year. Somehow I keep scraping by and winning games. I was telling you, I literally have gone through. I drafted Michael Penix, who obviously has not started. And then so I ended up having to get Gardner Minshew, who is benched. And then I ended up getting Jameis, who was good for one game, then sucked. So then I got Cooper Rush, who got me -2 points this last weekend. And so my second quarterback, because it is my second, I do have Joe Burrow, who luckily got me like 65 points or something last week. So at least there's that. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle. At first I thought you said Antonio Johnson. And I was like, why is he telling us that information?
So does this mean you're going to go back to Gardner?
I don't know. I'll have to analyze my very crappy quarterback selection.
I'm assuming you start 2 every week.
Yeah, it's a 2 quarterback one. So that's what makes it even. And it was my first dynasty league. So I waited just a tad too long to get that second quarterback was my biggest flaw. The rest have been pretty good. Like my wide receivers have been really good. And so other things have gone well outside of the fact that all of them have been put on IR at some point. But then they'll be back, like Nico Collins put on IR, stuff like that. But that's what's so frustrating. It's almost like you can be as good as you want at fantasy football, but it's a lot of luck in there because these guys have to stay healthy. If you have guys like a Jahmyr Gibbs and a David Montgomery, like who's getting more carries? It's just so many little things that go into fantasy football that are like, oh, so frustrating.
Well, that's where I am glad that as much as I wasn't confident enough, like Lauren Brooks, to lean all the way into picking the Commanders as my surprise team of 2024, I did, despite drafting, I believe I have Baker. Yes, in that league, I have Baker Mayfield as the starter. I did draft Jaden Daniels in like the 7th round. And feeling pretty good, even with the injury a couple weeks ago. Sorry, Taylor. Look, he's still producing. And I did not know if that would be just a bold pick or not. But yeah, I'm wishing I also picked the Commanders to be my upset team.
Liam Murphy last night had 22 points for North Florida men's basketball, but unfortunately they lost 90-77 to Georgia. Was rooting hard for them last night, but I will give Mike White credit. He has a much better basketball team than he's had in Athens.
Yeah, look, and it begins and it ends with Asa Newell for this Georgia team. And look, I think they had some other guys who stepped up last night. I mean, Godfrey, the transfer from Georgia Tech, went off. And certainly that was, I think a big reason why R.J. Godfrey's play was a big reason why Georgia was able to do what they did because Newell only finished with 13 points. But the true freshman, of course, from the Panhandle area, Fort Walton Beach, 6'11", went to Montverde. It's crazy if you're familiar with Montverde. It's like the other IMG ladies. And so like that other big powerhouse high school that I think they go to school, but I know they play basketball and they play football. And they tweeted out a graphic of their starting 5 from a year ago. They were all seniors then. Now they're all true freshmen in college. They all averaged double figures in their first week of college basketball. So
they also still have Blue Kane, who was on the team last year, but they have a lot of new pieces, does Georgia basketball. Dakota LeFew is a guy that first 2 games of the season had, I think, over 20 points. Last night he only had 10, but he's a guy that I would say you have to watch out for. And, yeah, when it comes to women's basketball, like you said, Florida Gulf Coast has been at the helm of the ASUN for so many years. JU, UNF, both have 1 win on the season, but, they're working hard.
Yeah, and I'm very curious because here's the thing. Carl Semesco leaves mid-season, but his assistants aren't going anywhere. His assistants have been there forever. What both Special Jennings and Erica Lambert have tried to do since they arrived in Jacksonville is to bring in either former assistant coaches or former players at Florida Gulf Coast to their staff or as consultants, because rightfully so, they want to figure out what is it that has led to such dominance in a conference for over a decade. And so, the
drafting and developing. Okay, recruiting
I was like, I
and
also
developing.
want to know.
yeah. Which, look, and he does, and Semesco did an incredible job. He has roots in Ohio. Kirsten Bell, who was the number 3 overall pick in the WNBA draft a few years ago, plays for the Aces. She came from Florida Gulf Coast. Granted, that was because she got dismissed from Ohio State, and Semesco essentially picked her up on the side of the road and said, come on down to Fort Myers with me. But the point is that he has such a strong pipeline, not only from Ohio, where he has roots, but across the country to where you're recruiting to Florida Gulf Coast nationally, not just regionally.
Look, and the men's basketball program there for a while, too, was certainly one of the best in the ASUN.
Dunk City, baby.
If you want a pretty campus, go to Florida Gulf Coast. Oh, my goodness. That's one of the ones I toured when I was going to college, and I'm like, you could almost sell me on just the
That's what it
campus
was, though.
alone.
That's what it was. I remember when I had a friend from growing up who announced she was going to Florida Gulf Coast, we all looked at each other like, what? She's like, oh, they have a great PT program. I'm like, I'm not questioning you. That's just interesting. I never would have thought that. And then she was there for Dunk City for those 2 seasons in which they went to the NCAA tournament. So, she hedged her bet on that one.
All right, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Discover BioTarget Regenerative Therapy, a safer drug-free solution for lasting pain relief. Visit GoBioTarget.com.
Joe, we talked to Dan Miller, the play-by-play voice of the Lions, for about 15 minutes, and we really barely even mentioned the Jaguars. It was more like, how do we take what you have and bring it here?
Yeah, I've been begging for a Johnson in Jacksonville for a while. I love Ben Johnson. And I do love Brad Holmes, what he's been able to do. And the other thing that he mentioned, and this is something that Hayes has been on, a few other people have been on, is bringing that lieutenant under Brad Holmes, which is Agnew. If you could get a guy like that to come. But this
Ray, not Jamal.
Yeah.
Jamal's somewhere in Pittsburgh
Ray
right
Agnew.
now.
This all starts with Shad saying no to whoever is in charge in the building right now. You cannot continue. And I don't know whether he'll do that or not. I hope like how he does. But he needs to have someone that has proven that they can get the job done. And by the way, all these guys, if you go back in time, they come under the Les Snead family, which is in L.A. That guy has been uber successful for so dang long. So, I would love to see it.
Yeah, we talked about, he used the word culture, which I feel like we've talked about here, but not in the way that you want to talk about the culture. Right. But he was really good because he went into about how the importance of, yes, you want to draft right and you want to make these selections, but you also want to draft for your team, and specifically every team is going to have different needs. But beyond that, the coaches have to do the right thing also once the players are on the team.
There's no one thing to do. Like if you did that, you would
be successful.
Solve everything. Yeah. You have to draft and develop. The only way you can develop is if you have good coaches. And what any team has said, and Leon says it all the time, is that when you walk in the building, there is a standard that you have to meet. And if you don't, you're going to be weeded out. Players need to do that to other players, and there aren't enough of those guys on this football team, unfortunately. And hell, I thought Doug was going to be way better in this regard than he has been.
And Dan Miller did reference the idea of being a Pittsburgh Steeler, being a Baltimore Raven, and it's something that certainly Leon says each and every day.
Look at those trophies. As soon as you walk in the door, you see hardware that you have to meet that standard.
Flipping over to college football briefly, Joe, I know you guys announced yesterday, as you do each and every Tuesday, your XLP to the CFP picks. If you could enlighten us a little bit as to your 12-team playoff field right now.
Well, I'll hit the first 4 real quick because I moved SMU in and took Miami out, which we know the College Football Playoff Committee did not do that. And it's going to come down to a de facto maybe one bid league for the ACC, and it probably will come down to those two playing in the championship game. And then I still have Oregon number 1. I have Ohio State 2. I have Ohio State 2, and then I have Texas after that. Yeah. Did I put Texas ahead of them?
You have, because of seeding purposes, because you can only have. So that's right. Your seeding is you have Ohio State,
and it's so funny because you're sitting there going, okay, Ohio State went on the road and beat Penn State. Texas lost at home to Georgia. So you can sit there
but because they're the leader in the SEC and they're the second place team in the Big Ten, they unfortunately would not have that benefit of the doubt in the second round on a home game.
And I kicked Georgia out this week.
Okay.
Just for now, just to see, because if they beat Tennessee at home, then they're going to come right back into the party. And then so I have Boise State not in that 12th spot, but in the 11th spot. So I tried to move a few of them up, and Notre Dame's in there for right now. So we'll see where the rest of them go. But you still have a meaty SEC group of teams that are in there and should be in there.
Yeah, I keep thinking we need a playoff to get to the SEC championship, the way that this season has gone.
Well, heck, there's going to be some teams that are going to be saying, hey, leave me out on championship Saturday. It'll hurt me if I play in it, and I'll be in a better spot. And that could be, I don't know, Tennessee or Ole Miss or whomever it is.
What's coming up, Joe?
Well, we're definitely going to dive into that because Matt's thinking Indiana has been boxed in, or maybe the selection playoff committee has boxed themselves in with Indiana if they don't get blown out by Ohio State. So anyway, we'll jump in on that. And then Trevor not being available, is it shut it down time? We'll get into all that coming up. By the way, real quick, as I see the Chick-fil-A for Taylor, I got to mention this. Took the little babes to Chick-fil-A last night. M&M and lemon, as I like to call them. Lemonade, milkshakes, and dream cones.
Ooh, they don't mess around.
They were on a sugar high.
They are welcome at They are welcome to Helmets and Heels. Those lovely ladies, whenever they want.
TLD and I were just chasing them all
And
around.
then you just take them and drop them off at home.
Oh, yeah, just leave them there.
We are not responsible for this. All right, thanks, Joe. We'll be listening. All right, that's going to do it for us today. For Taylor Dahl, for Mia O'Brien, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. Yes, thanks again to Frank with Epic Cool Heating and Air for the Chick-fil-A lunch. We'll be back with you on Friday live at Tony D's Pizza. And again, remember, free slices thanks to Royal Pest Services. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you live from Tony D's on Friday.
You keep lying.